here to break down what is going on in terms of presidential politics, in terms of what's happening on the border in public policy, and what's going on in his backyard of Boston. The columnist for the Boston Herald, the talk show host for WRKO Radio, it's our friend Howie Carr. Howie, thanks so much for Skyping in this morning from Boston.
Thank you, JD. Thanks for having me.
Well, we have a situation now where Texas Governor Rand Paul called Texas Governor Rick Perry. Good. Yeah. I didn't have to name three things this morning. Anyway, Rick Perry squaring off against Rand Paul. Governor Perry says that Senator Paul is, quote, curiously blind to the threat of ISIS. In Politico magazine, Rand Paul has already responded. What do you make of this early dust-up among possible presidential candidates on the Republican side?
Well, after reading the story in the original op-ed piece in the Washington Post, JD, I don't think either one of them did much good for themselves. Apparently, Rick Perry said in this piece that we need to bring back U.S. troops to Iraq, but they talk about a non-starter of an issue. But he actually was saying that as early as 2012, as Rand Paul pointed out, and then in 2012, Rick Perry was saying in the Republican primary debates that we needed to put the troops back in, or more troops into Iraq at that point, in order to counter the Iranian influence in Iraq. So now Rand Paul says, so what are the troops going back there for now? To work with the Iranians to counteract the ISIL, which is a Sunni group that's opposed by the Iranians? It doesn't seem like that's a winning strategy for Rick Perry, and I think he's pretty lucky that most of the attention on him last week focused on the border. On the other hand, Rand Paul, in his essay in Politico, all he seems to be doing is saying, well, I'm for the same things that Barack Obama is for. Is that a winning strategy in a Republican primary in 2016? I don't think so.
Well, Senator John McCain had his own comments seeing this feud. He said it deals with lack of leadership. But the senior senator from Arizona over the weekend with his new bill seems he's getting away from amnesty with a gang of 8, calling for ankle braces for illegals coming into the country, ankle bracelets, the electronic ankle bracelets. Is this indicative of just how thorny an issue the border has become, that even members of the Gang of 8 are having to retreat and modify from the position they held and voted on in the United States Senate?
Well, look, JD. I mean, at first it was just a handful of Democrats whose districts were directly threatened, like Steve Israel from Long Island, and getting together with Peter King. Now it seems like all of these Democrats, especially the ones who are running for re-election, they're all backing off. It was Governor Hickenlooper of Colorado this weekend saying, "Oh no, we don't need any more of this." We have a mayor in Western Massachusetts who, even before this whole thing started, said, "We can't in Springfield." We can't take any more of these refugees. It's straining the city's infrastructure beyond the breaking point. And I think that the Democrats and the Republicans share this in common. The Democrats are more directly affected electorally, but it's a disaster for anyone in any party who gets behind this. This is crazy. Like you were just saying. I mean, you have Eric Holder on the one hand saying we have this terrible threat from these foreign weapons, untrackable foreign weapons from the Mideast, and on the other hand, we're going to let illegal aliens board commercial airliners with no security checks. There's a complete disconnect here with the administration.
Howie, in recent weeks when we've gotten together, you have spoken of planes showing up in your home state of Massachusetts. There is talk that planes are going to the president's hometown of Chicago. Is Barack Obama now dependent on friendly Democrats like Governor Patrick in your state and Mayor Emanuel in the Windy City to find places for these illegals? Does that kind of cooperation continue there in your backyard?
Well, talk about a short-term fix. I mean, I saw a poll today saying Rahm Emanuel is behind all of his Democratic opponents in the primary by between 9 and 24 points, and this isn't going to get him in any better. And by the way, I told you a few weeks ago, JD, that the Patrick administration here in Massachusetts had denied that any of these illegal aliens were being domiciled here in Massachusetts. Now it turns out that this will shock you, they weren't telling the truth. They have a Republican sheriff that's come forward from the southern part of the state. He had to send buses up to Hanscom Air Force Base in suburban Boston, pick up 6 busloads of illegal aliens and then transport them down to the jail in Plymouth County, where they usually holds federal prisoners for awaiting a trial in federal court. Now it's just going to be a dumping ground for these illegal aliens. And then they said that some of them are actually going to be released into the community, all of which is exactly contradictory to what the governor's director of public safety said in a letter to the Republican leadership in the House 2 weeks ago.
Howie, about a minute 30 remains. 2 other issues I want to get to, so I'm just going to give them to you now and let you take the time to respond. As we understand it, the Herald today reporting last night was the most violent night in Boston in 6 months. If you could update us on that. And since we began with mentioning at least a couple of Republican senators, let's mention a guy who is the once, and he hopes to be a future senator from a different state, Scott Brown. His support in New Hampshire seems to be lagging. Those 2 stories with the minute that remains, sir.
Well, I think the first, the violence in Boston, I think that was an aberration. No policies have changed. The new mayor, Marty Walsh, is fairly strong law and order guy for a Democrat, and we don't have the same problems as they do in New York, where Mayor de Blasio has ordered it in to stop and frisk, and there's been a subsequent uptick in handgun violence after this wise policy under Giuliani and Bloomberg stopped. As for Scott Brown, he's getting hit hard by Jeanne Shaheen, the incumbent Democrat senator, and he's still down about 10 points, and he's going to need to get it down to 5 to 7. He's trying to appeal to the women. Yesterday, he went to his younger daughter's wedding, Ariana. I hope that'll help him.
That's right. And his younger daughter, I believe, Kelly Ayotte, the New Hampshire junior senator, officiated.
Yeah.
We'll leave it with that young couple saying, "I do." We'll get back to you soon, Howie. Thanks so much for your time. You heard Howie's take on a variety of issues. We'd love yours, and we look for it via Twitter.